Hi everyone, welcome to another video for the Distress Oxide Layering Combination series. Today we are already working our way through the alphabet to brushed corduroy. So we've had quite a few videos already and we have actually gathered a lot of different combinations, but I'm going to keep going until I've got through all 72 colours of the Distress range. So like I say, brushed corduroy today, so a nice warm brown. Let's see what we can mix it with that smooshing technique, and let's see what effects we get. So as always, I'm going to be working on watercolour cardstock and I'm going to be smooshing. This means putting the ink directly onto a mat, spritzing it with water and pressing my paper into it. We get some beautiful results from this, and it's actually my favourite type of background to do. So brushed corduroy is the colour we're focusing on. So for the first two of our three swatches, I'm going to put the brown down first, and then I'm going to layer another colour over the top to see what sort of background we get. Then for the third one, this is going to be the top colour, and I'm going to put other colours down first instead. You do tend to get a really nice overlap of the colours, and they don't usually mix too much when you're using oxides because the pigment sits on top of the paper rather than just soaking in like a dye would. So you do get some really nice kind of colour layering upon other colours. So really lovely saturation as well. So as you can see here, I am just picking up this brown. In fact, I shouldn't have done the whole thing, so I usually like to leave a tab at the bottom to hold on to. So I have done the brown there, and as you can see, it's actually quite a yellow colour. Now, if you're familiar with my Distress Ink and Oxide colour combination series, a different series to this one, you'll have seen me focus on this in one of the videos. I've focused on each of the colours individually. So there's 70 plus videos for you to go and watch there, and we talk about the colours, how they blend, what they actually look like, and this one is actually more yellow than you expect from the label. So I'm just going to dry this off. If you've been watching the series so far, you'll know that we smoosh twice with any one colour, because the first one usually we kind of get a wash of colour, which is what we've got here, so really good coverage usually. And then the second one, we're picking up these dots that are remaining, and that's what always gives us the beautiful texture. That's what I'm just going to do here. So now that I've dried off that first layer, I'm going to lay my swatch into the rest, and look, you've got these dots, these speckles here, the texture, and I try to pick up as much of this as possible and dry that off again. So there's our first layer of colour. That's the brushed corduroy. Now very quickly I'm going to repeat this onto a second panel of watercolour cardstock, and of course each time I'm going to get a different result, even if I'm using the same colour and the same amount. So there's my two results, and as you can see, very different even though I use the same technique and the same colour for both. This one is a slightly stronger colour with more texture, and this one a little more wishy-washy, so perhaps I use a touch more water on that one. Either way, I'm going to be putting other colours over the top. Now for one of them I'm going to use chipped sapphire, so the blue, and for another one I'm going to use saltwater taffy. Because I know that chipped sapphire is a really deep dark colour, I'm going to use the stronger result here and then the opposite with the pink. So let's put some of this chipped sapphire down first. Like I say, this is a really strong colour and a dark colour, so I don't want to go overboard with this. So I'm going to try not to use too much water either, because if you use too much water you'll just get a full wash of blue rather than any texture or speckles. I'm just going to dip my cardstock in there as lightly as possible and try to get cover where I can. There we go. So I can see we have got some beautiful texture coming in here. Just make sure there's no missed areas, although we want this to be quite random. Now I am getting greens because the water is reacting with the yellow that's already on the paper. I'm getting quite a few greens coming through there, and I see it more, so there's some on here, but I see it also on the mat too. So as you can see, lots of speckles there. Let's dry this off and then we'll pick up the remainder of what's on the mat and we'll lift that and see what it looks like. But definitely some greens coming through on this. So now I can pick up what's left, and as I've said before, I like to dry everything off between layers because otherwise you will just end up with a big muddy mess. Everything kind of combining together rather than layering together. So there we go. I think I've picked all of that up. Now that's quite nice. I like that, although that's definitely two colours. So rather than merging into one colour with texture, we've definitely got the two different colours there, but I like it. I do like it. So let's dry that off, put that to the side. And what we tend to do, if you've not seen these videos before, is we will have a really close look at each of the three swatches. Close up, I'll bring it up to the camera, focus it in so you can see what that looks like. So there's the brushed corduroy along with chipped sapphire. So next on this one, I'm going to be adding saltwater taffy. So this kind of yellowy brown with some pink to see what that looks like. Now I'm going to put quite a bit of pink down on my mat because I think the yellowy brown colour is going to really override this otherwise. And then let's do exactly the same. Let's just lightly dip this into the surface first of all. See if we can create texture rather than just covering the whole area. There we go, and the corner as well. And a bit under there. So at the moment, I have actually covered most of it. Now it's subtle, it's way more subtle than the blue, of course, which is why I've used this slightly lighter swatch of the two of the brushed corduroy. So dry this layer off, and then I'll go back and I'll pick up all of these lovely dots off my mat. It's such a fun way and unpredictable way to create texture and colour on your projects. Let's just dry that speckle off there. I mean, that's looking lovely already. Let's see if we can get a bit more pink over there. I tend to like the focal colour, the first colour, to come through if I can, rather than completely wash over it. So now we haven't got a lot more to pick up. We're just really getting small speckles. But yeah, that's really pretty as well. Now, bear in mind, I'm just doing small swatches. Imagine if this was a full background, or if you die cut some shapes from these, whether it be flowers, animal parts, leaves, you know, the choice is yours. It's entirely up to you what you do with these swatches afterwards. I like to make my swatch book just so I can be reminded of what I've used, what colours I've used. But you can see all the different ones here. And then when I've got a project, I think, oh, I'd like a certain colour background, I can look for something similar here, and then I can go through and see what colours that I've actually used. So there's the pink with the brown as well. So with both of these, you can really see the brushed corduroy coming through. But let's now look at some others. Now, I did originally pick peeled paint and fossilised amber, but I'm thinking now, seeing this brushed corduroy smooshed as it is, I think the fossilised amber is going to be lost. So I'm going to switch this one round. I'm going to put that back, and I'm going to bring in, let's try evergreen bow or bow. I always forget how to say it. I used to know it and now I've lost it again. So peeled paint first of all, I think, and then the beautiful teal, turquoise, and then the brown. We'll do it that way. So let's put these aside so they don't get splattered with any other colours, and start with peeled paint. So this time that brushed corduroy is going over the top. So we'll see how it layers when you put it as your top colour. So peeled paint, this is probably my favourite green of all the Distress greens. This is my favourite. I didn't actually put enough water down there, I know that, so a little spritz of both the paper and the mat. Let's get a wash going on to cover the area. There we go. Dry this off, and then I'll pick up those speckles again, get some texture going, and then I'll repeat this with the evergreen bow as well. And then what I think I might do is repeat the process with fresh ink for the second layer, because I've got a lot of the peeled paint colour mixed in on my mat there, and that's only going to pick up as a sort of a grass green colour rather than the evergreen bow that should be. Or it could be both. I really can't remember which one it is. And when I say neither of them sound right, and I know it's one of them. Now what you can do as well, if you don't want the wash, is grab yourself a small paintbrush, and after you've spritzed your water on, and I'm only putting a little water, rub that around with the paintbrush, and this way we are going to create texture without having to do the first impression. There we go. So we've kind of pulled and separated the colour. Now we can just pop that over the top, and instantly we are getting texture rather than a wash. Now I'm not going to overdo it with this one. I think that will be absolutely fine. So again, that's, I mean, what started off as almost a turquoise colour has still gone quite green. I like it. I do like it. Let's see what it's going to look like when we finally get brushed corduroy over the top. So I'll dry this off, wipe my mat, and then we'll smoosh some of that brushed corduroy. So lastly, the brown, being our focal colour, we want a fair bit. Now, even so, I think the yellow that's picked out of the peeled paint is really going to tie in well with the brown, the yellow in the brown. So let's pick this up and see. So this is probably going to be one of those swatches that all looks sort of one similar colour, but actually when you look closely you see all the different colours coming through, and that's what I love. I do like that. It's almost a camo effect, isn't it? This would be a perfect for if you were doing like a dinosaur card, maybe something for somebody who loves like the military. There's, I mean, lots of different ways. Very earthy greens and browns here. Rainforest maybe, like a snake, that, you know, that sort of theme on a card. Jungle maybe. Love that. Okay, so let's just pick up the rest of those browns that's left on here. That many of them have actually gone green anyway. So I'm not looking too much before I press it back down, because I don't want to be too regimented with it. I don't want to think, oh, there's a space there, I must fill it. I kind of want these swatches to be as random as possible, and I think that's where the fun is. So lifting up the colour without really looking too much at where you're placing it down, and then you find out afterwards. So there we've got 3 different swatches. Now you can definitely see the underlying yellow brown colour in each, but of course once you layer over those second and third colours, they really do look very different. So let's take a look at these nice and close up. There we go. So there's our 3. I do love the deep dark speckles on the chipped sapphire. I think that is beautiful. I do also love how well the saltwater taffy has actually blended. I think that looks lovely. Much more subtle, of course. If you actually want texture, that's definitely one to go for. Much more subtle, and then you can see all 3 of those colours really coming through, mixed beautifully. Now, it may be that a swatch like this on its own, you're thinking, well, don't know what to do with that, but you just never know. You never know when you may need some leaves die cut from these colours, perhaps, as an example, or a background, like I say, for a dinosaur card. You never know. It's worth trying, keeping a swatch aside, and to be honest, just having fun mixing your inks anyway. So there's 3 more swatches that I can add to my swatch book. This is already getting quite chunky, and we've only gone through the first few colours in the Distress range. We're working through alphabetically. So this is brushed corduroy. So please do join us in the playlist on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you don't want to miss any of these videos. There's around about 1 a week, so that you can go away and try the same colours or different colours if you like to, but I definitely recommend making yourself a swatch book so you can look back and see what you've used, because some of the results are really surprising. So thank you everybody, take care, and I will see you again very soon.